Jonathan's heart raced against his chest as the drone's camera zoomed in on the forest below. Nestled among the leaves and branches was something that made his blood run cold. "No way," he whispered. This revelation changed everything. Was he really seeing what he thought he was? As Jonathan struggled to dial 911, his eyes stayed glued to the screen. He strained to understand what he was seeing half hidden in the underbrush. Ever since Jonathan had been laid off from the Charmouth Gazette, he had been struggling to rekindle his passion for reporting. Most of his story pitches were rejected, and the checks from his freelance work barely covered his grocery bills. But he had a plan. A plan that initially seemed innocent, yet later resulted in many sleepless nights. His journalism career was stuck in a downward spiral, and he desperately needed a breakthrough. Jonathan knew he needed to find something big and explosive to pitch, a real game changer. But in a small town like Charmouth, explosive stories were hard to come by. Still, he was determined to turn things around, and he would do so very soon. That's when his thoughts shifted. He began to look more at the natural world around him that greatly influenced life in Charmouth. So Jonathan began toying with an idea. The rocky shores and churning seas surrounding Charmouth often bred intense, unpredictable storms. If he could capture exclusive footage of the storm's thrashing fury using brand new technology, maybe that would entice newspaper editors to take a chance on him again. Which is how Jonathan found himself unboxing a gleaming new high-tech drone one morning, fresh off a risky purchase with his dwindling savings. This had to work. He decided today would be the perfect inaugural flight to test it out. Jonathan slipped on his jacket, grabbed the drone remote, and headed for his favorite perch atop the lighthouse point. Reaching the clifftop overlook, Jonathan paused to catch his breath. The darkening sky stretched before him. Now was the moment of truth. Peering through the camera feed, he scoured the churning seas. Towering waves smashed against the rocks, spraying mist high into the air. It was treacherous, but breathtaking. Jonathan swallowed hard. Maybe he shouldn't have come alone. Doubt crept in as the drone wavered unsteadily. Had he put himself at risk again too soon? Holding his breath, Jonathan nudged the drone closer to the dizzying precipice. His doubts resurfaced, but he shook them off. "I can do this. The perfect shot is within reach." The drone inched nearer the crashing surf. Jonathan's eyes never left the screen, but then he suddenly felt the aircraft yanked sharply to the right. "No, no, no!" Jonathan shouted in dismay as the drone spiraled out of control. The screen went black. He'd lost the signal. Now the drone was at the wind's mercy, lost in the gathering storm. "Come on, where are you?" He had to get the drone back before it was destroyed or washed out to sea. Just when Jonathan was ready to abandon hope, the display abruptly blinked back to life. "Yes!" he cried out as the drone's camera feed reappeared through static. Grabbing the controls, Jonathan manually steered the drone back toward the coast as rain blurred the camera view into a smeary mosaic. His relief was palpable. He hadn't destroyed the expensive gadget in his recklessness after all. But circling lower, the drone's camera panned over an object half hidden in the trees. Jonathan froze. There was something off about it that gave him pause. An uneasy feeling settled in the pit of his stomach. As he zoomed in, the camera struggled to focus through the rain and shadows. Squinting, Jonathan caught a brief, puzzling glimpse of the object. In that split second, his heart inexplicably skipped a beat. The image lingered in his mind, though the details remained unclear. Had he really seen what he thought? Jonathan zoomed in further. It was a child's backpack. The backpack looked new, with a cheerful orange pattern. His heartbeat quickened as an uneasy feeling settled in his gut. What was going on here? Just yesterday, 10-year-old Mia Allen had gone missing from the nearby town of Charmouth. She was well loved in the tight-knit community, and her disappearance had sparked a massive search effort. Could this backpack possibly belong to Mia? Jonathan's hands shook as he fumbled for his phone. He had to call 911 immediately. The dispatcher picked up on the second ring. 911, what's your emergency? Jonathan hurriedly explained that his drone had just spotted a backpack belonging to missing girl Mia Allen, deep in the remote forested area west of Charmouth. The dispatcher wasted no time. "Officers are being dispatched to your location right now. Do not touch or tamper with anything. Just keep an eye overhead." She requested Jonathan's contact info and exact coordinates. "Of course, I'll keep the drone right over the area," Jonathan confirmed, his mouth dry. 2 officers emerged, pulling their jackets tight against the raging elements. Jonathan hurried to explain the situation, shouting over the wind. He showed them the drone footage on the rain-speckled screen. "That's Mia Allen, all right," confirmed Officer Malloy grimly. "Let's move." The 2 officers raced into the raging storm. Soon more personnel arrived: detectives, forensic units, and volunteer search teams. The drenched search teams fanned out into the darkening woods as thunder boomed overhead. Everyone worked with a desperate urgency, sensing this was now a rescue mission. When confirmation came that the orange bag did indeed belong to the missing girl, the color drained from Jonathan's face. He barely heard the officer's instructions through the blood pounding in his ears. Groups of searchers fanned out into the storm-lashed forest. Jonathan kept his drone close, monitoring from above for any sign of Mia. Apprehension clawed at his chest. Would they find her hiding and afraid, injured, or worse? Jonathan landed the drone and assisted the search base camp coordinators, but his heart felt hollow with dread. Little Mia was somewhere out in that storm-battered wilderness, exposed through the long night ahead. Over the next few days, more of Charmouth's residents joined the expanding search for Mia. Jonathan noticed the whispers circulating, how coincidental his drone found Mia's bag right after she went missing. Some believed he was involved somehow, and should be interrogated as more than just a volunteer. Didn't they realize how desperately he wanted Mia home safely too? He had been the one to alert police in the first place. But Jonathan's role as the accidental discoverer of the backpack made him a pariah. Ostracized and distressed, Jonathan withdrew from the search efforts. He spent anxious days scanning the skies for signs of life with his drone from afar or monitoring radio chatter. But as one rain-soaked day blurred into the next, Mia remained missing. After another night of reviewing the same footage over and over again, his heart suddenly skipped a beat. "Wait a second," he whispered out loudly. There, caught on a bramble, was that a shred of bright purple fabric? He zoomed the drone camera in closer until there was no doubt. It was a ribbon matching the one Mia wore in her school photo. Jonathan's excitement mounted. This was the first real evidence that Mia had made it deep into the forest on her own 2 feet after losing her backpack. Proof that she had survived that long was a glimmer of hope reignited. He rushed to show the discovery to search organizers. The searchers mobilized to the area where the ribbon was spotted. As Jonathan assisted them from overhead, he noticed the suspicious glances had faded. People seemed grateful for his drone skills again, now that they offered a new promise. But Jonathan's relief was short-lived. That afternoon, as he was surveilling the expanded search zone, an unfamiliar man caught his eye. He was lurking around the fringes, peering into the underbrush. Jonathan's instincts bristled. He flew in for a closer look. The man wore dingy clothing and a scruffy beard. He seemed to be searching while avoiding detection, ducking behind trees when searchers approached. Unease swirled in Jonathan's gut as he watched the suspicious character. Was this just a nosy citizen trying to catch a glimpse of the action? Or someone with more sinister intent? Jonathan observed the man discreetly over the next few hours. Jonathan's chest tightened. Was this the figure who haunted the townspeople's worst fears? The mysterious person who had torn Mia away from the safety of her own backyard? Every instinct told Jonathan he needed to keep this distressing information to himself until he knew more. Jonathan kept watch over the suspicious figure, tracking his movements but finding no solid evidence of wrongdoing. But then on the 5th day, something happened. A volunteer noticed a remote cabin deep in the woods, miles from any trail. Police rushed to the scene and searched the dilapidated building. Mia was not inside, but there were signs someone had been staying there recently. Sweeping the area, they found Mia alive outside near a woodpile. She was quickly brought to safety and medical care. Though malnourished and confused, Mia seemed to have no major injuries, which was miraculous. After all had feared the worst, she was alive. When she regained consciousness, Mia described how she had gotten lost in the woods after accidentally dropping her backpack near the creek. By chance, she had stumbled upon the remote cabin owned by Mrs. Thorne, a kindly but near-deaf elderly woman who had not seen any news of Mia's disappearance. She took the lost child in, saving her life. But a worrisome detail emerged that cast a shadow over the joyous reunion. In the weeks after her return, Mia finally began sharing the full story behind her mysterious disappearance. She explained that she had spotted an ivory-billed woodpecker, thought extinct, while exploring the woods near her home. Excited, she had packed her backpack with notebook and carving tools, planning to track the rare bird and document its presence. But while crossing the creek, she accidentally dropped the precious bag. In her eagerness to retrieve it, Mia went off trail and quickly became lost in the dense forest. Her memory after that was fragmented, but she remembered Mrs. Thorne taking care of her, feeding her and making sure she was all right. Once Mia shared her story, the mood in Charmouth transformed from doubt to awe. What had first seemed reckless now took on the sheen of incredible bravery. This young girl spotted a bird thought vanished forever and risked all to prove its existence. As news spread, researchers and conservationists flocked to the area, hoping to verify the ivory-billed woodpecker, thanks to Mia's sharp eyes. She became a local celebrity for her discovery and resilience. Meanwhile, Jonathan worked hard to tell the full tale behind Mia's disappearance. His gripping articles and drone footage drew the nation's attention, proving his skills as a journalist. Offers began pouring in from major news outlets. On accepting a high-profile job in the city, Jonathan returned to thank Mia. "You really saved my career," he admitted. "So don't ever forget, you're the real hero of this story." Mia just smiled shyly. "All I did was trust my own eyes," she replied. "But maybe now people will start trusting them too." As Jonathan drove out of Charmouth, he glanced back at the cliffside where it all started. Just another quiet coastal town, but one that had changed his life forever.